food gets through your mouth and into your esophagus, the muscles actually have this process called peristalsis, which is involuntary muscle contractions to move the food on. So as you can see here, part of the esophagus will be relaxed and part of it will be contracted. This is just smooth muscle there, and it's involuntary control. So it's part of your. Do you guys remember what the involuntary part of your nervous system is from the nervous system chapter? What's the name of that nervous system? That part of the nervous system. So it's the autonomic nervous system. So it's part of the, Danish, you're probably about to type that. Oh, I was just saying what the involuntary nervous system is. Looks like my roommate is back. Do you care if I just do the class over here? The lighting's a little bit better. Yeah. So peristalsis is, like I said, involuntary muscle contractions to move the food along. Actually, I think I am going to go upstairs. Guys, here's a tour of my place. Kitchen. Now I live up in the loft, so there's a little staircase. Into my room. It's a little bit cleaner now. If you can see it. All right. So, let's keep going. Okay, so here's a couple questions. Just go ahead and answer it in the chat box. So what kind of digestion is the following types? 1, chewing a saltine. Is it mechanical or chemical? Yeah, so it's mechanical because we're talking about the actual process of physically chewing it, not the actual breakdown in your mouth of it, because of the salivary amylase. So it is mechanical. Now, what about saliva breaking the saltine down into molecules of glucose? Yep, it's definitely chemical because the salivary amylase is breaking down those starch molecules into glucose. Oh, well, I gave that one away, but your tongue breaking pieces of a hamburger apart is mechanical. Now, what about when pepsin in your stomach breaks the proteins in the hamburger into amino acids? So this is actually chemical because this is an enzyme is involved here, and it's actually chemically breaking down the protein into its smaller pieces, which is the amino acids. Okay, so the pharynx, that's the back of your throat, and the larynx is the passage for air. So the pharynx becomes the larynx eventually. And it's approximately 15 centimeters long. You don't need to know that. You also have, this actually you don't need to know for the MCAT, so I'm just going to skip through these digestive glands. Peristalsis, we already went over it. It's a series of involuntary wave-like muscle contractions which move food along the digestive tract. Now let's go on to the stomach, now that we've already talked about peristalsis and the esophagus. The stomach, the main purpose is to temporarily store the food there. And in the stomach, you have a bunch of different gastric juices that are secreted. And there's also layers of muscle that line the inside of the stomach. And at the stomach, you have both mechanical and chemical breakdown of food. So the layers of muscle that line the inside of the stomach, they actually cause it to churn. So it physically churns the bolus that the food has now become, to break it down even more and make it into more of a liquid. So, like I said, food storage, your stomach can actually stretch to fill 2 liters of food. The stomach also disinfects food because there's HCl that's secreted, and that has the pH of 2, and this kills bacteria that comes with the food. There's also chemical digestion because you have the enzyme pepsin that's active in your stomach. So pepsin is a specific enzyme that breaks down proteins. So this is the first time that protein is now being broken down in your digestive system. Another thing, pepsin, a lot of different enzymes they function best in different environments, right? Pepsin specifically, it can function in a very low pH environment because it pretty much has to, because the pH of your stomach is 2. So it's very acidic. So what stops the stomach from digesting itself? Do you guys know? So there's actually mucus secreted by your stomach cells. So it's there to protect the lining of your stomach, so that the acidic nature of the gastric juices don't digest the stomach, and also the pepsin. So the pepsin doesn't digest the stomach either. And when you have a problem with that, a lot of times you have gastric ulcers, which are sores inside your stomach, and those are supposed to be incredibly painful. And a lot of times they're brought on by a bunch of different things. One of the very common topics, actually, in both the verbal passages and a lot of times they show up in like the biological sciences passages as well, is the fact that there's also these ulcers can also be caused by a microorganism called H. pylori, and I've just noticed that's something that comes up a lot in terms of the MCAT and different practice tests and stuff. So ways that you can have ulcers because there's a problem with the mucus being secreted by the stomach, or there's too much HCl being secreted in the stomach, or also this H. pylori, this microorganism that eats into your stomach. And I will type that out. H. pylori. Yeah, I spelled it wrong. You had it right, Danish. Pylori. There we go. Doesn't it cause cancer? I don't know. I don't. Not that I know of, but it's supposed to cause gastric ulcers. Maybe it does cause cancer too, but that's not within the scope of the MCAT. Did you learn about that in like a class or something? Okay. Now back to our dude with his digestive system. Got the stomach, and the purpose is to kill germs, break up food, digest proteins, and store food. So you're not actually having digestion of carbohydrates or fat in the stomach itself. That's going to be happening later once you get to the small intestine. Oh, another thing, we also have a sphincter right here. This is called the pyloric sphincter. And what that does is it makes sure that you're not having any backflow of your stomach juices in your once the bolus is in your stomach and it's churned and it's also digested to some degree. It's now called chyme, Chyme. And if the chyme, if it backflows into your esophagus, you actually end up having heartburn. So heartburn is not actually anything to do with the heart. It just happens to be in the same area as the heart, since the heart is right over here, right above it. So you kind of feel it in your heart. And also acid reflux disease, that's also caused by a pyloric sphincter that's not functioning properly. And you also have a sphincter at the bottom to make sure that you're not releasing the chyme into your small intestine before it's ready to go there. Any questions? Cool. All right, let's talk a little bit more about gastric juices. These are secreted by the stomach, and it's very acidic, so between 1.5 and 2.5, but for the purpose of the MCAT, they always refer to it as just a pH of 2. You'll be right back. All right. And okay, that's cool. Do you want me to wait because we only have 2 students? It's cool. I can wait because this is going to be a short class anyway. Or wait, I guess Ilsa has her. Okay, cool. We'll just wait for a second. Go ahead. Just gonna step away for a moment. All right. So I also just realized I forgot to record this session as well. I'm really bad about that, so we'll record next time. Luckily, we're not going over too much today. Oh, you're recording? All right, perfect, cool. Is Ilsa back? Ilsa, are you here? Yep, looks like it. So I'm gonna just go to the next slide. Yeah, like I already said, that chyme is what it's called once it's further broken down into a thin liquid. We already went over heartburn. Okay, now let's talk about the accessory organs. So you got these three different organs that pretty much act as glands in the digestive system. Get better lighting. Yeah, so we got the pancreas, the gallbladder, and the spleen. The gallbladder is a pouch-like structure that's located right by the liver, so it's actually right underneath the liver. You can see in this picture right here. This little green thing right over here. And what that does is its function is to concentrate and store bile. So you got to remember that it doesn't actually produce the bile. All it does is it stores it. And it also has a duct that connects to it that eventually takes it to the small intestine to where it'll be helping emulsifying the fats. So yeah, so what bile is it's a substance that physically breaks apart fats. So it kind of pretty much acts as similar to soap, and it emulsifies the fat so that you pretty much have more surface area to where your body can actually digest the fat. It's a bitter green, yellow-like alkaline fluid that's stored in the gallbladder between meals, and once you eat, it goes through the bile duct and into your duodenum, which is a part of your small intestine, but we'll talk about that in a little bit more detail on the small intestine slide. The pancreas is an organ which is both a part of your digestive system and your endocrine system. The difference between endocrine and exocrine is the fact that endocrine, it releases its hormones directly into the blood supply, and that eventually takes it to the part of the body where it needs to be. Whereas exocrine, there's actually specific ducts or almost like little vessels that takes the digestive enzymes directly to where they need to go, which is the small intestine. The pancreatic juice, it digests every single nutrient type, so it can digest carbohydrates, fat, and protein. And nearly all digestion occurs in the small intestine. And it's all completed in the digestion as well. You don't have any digestion happening after the small intestine. So in the large intestine, there's zero digestion. So some of the enzymes that are important in terms of your pancreatic juices that are produced by the pancreas are the ones that digest protein are trypsin and chymotrypsin. You don't have to know the details about these enzymes, but just know that these are two of the ones that digest protein. And the other one was in the stomach, and that one was pepsin. And they also digest starch or carbohydrates, and that one is pancreatic amylase. So that's very similar to salivary amylase, but it's produced in the pancreas instead of your salivary glands. And there's also buffers that are part of the pancreatic juices that neutralize acid from the stomach. Because when the chyme comes through your stomach into your small intestine, it's still very acidic. So the pancreatic juices mix with it and neutralize that acid so that the smooth muscle of your small intestine doesn't get degraded. So this is just a picture of the bile. This is the gallbladder right here, and this is the bile duct. So over here, you actually have it coming from the liver as well. So the bile comes through over here, and it goes into the gallbladder to be stored when you're not actually eating. And it then goes through this little cystic duct. You don't have to know the name of that, but just know that it goes through a duct back into the small intestine once your food contents pass through the stomach and into the small intestine. And your pancreatic juices, they're coming from the pancreas. So there's also a pancreatic duct that leads us directly to the small intestine as well. Okay, now your liver, it has a ton of different functions, but in terms of the digestive system, it is producing bile. And that, like I said, the bile is stored in the gallbladder until it's needed. And the bile, what it does is breaks up fats and acts as a detergent to break up these fats. Now, the bile is it contains some parts from your old red blood cells, specifically the iron, and that causes the bile to be the color that it is. And because of that, your feces end up being brown. The iron in the red blood cells, they rust and make feces brown, which is kind of interesting. Now, back to our person. So the pancreas, it produces enzymes to digest proteins and starch. The liver produces bile, which is stored in the gallbladder, and it also breaks up fats. So in terms of breaking up fats, you have the process of beta oxidation that happens a lot in the liver. And, obviously the liver has a ton of other purposes as well, including regulating your metabolism, breaking down alcohol, and it's got a whole laundry list of stuff. Now, finally, the small intestine. This is the most important part of your digestive system, because that's where most of the chemical digestion is happening here in the small intestine. Sugars and proteins are also absorbed into the inner lining here in the small intestine. And fatty acids and glycerol, they go into the lymphatic system. So specifically, there's actually little vessels that carry these fatty acids once they're broken down. Those are called lacteals. Let me type it out for you. That's one thing that's not in the PowerPoint, but you do need to know that for the MCAT. These things called lacteals, they transport the fatty acids and glycerol into the lymphatic system. Also, the small intestine, it's lined with little finger-like projections, lacteals. Oh, they transport. They do this right here, this bullet point. So they transport the fatty acids and glycerol into the lymphatic system. Yeah. So also the small intestine is lined with little finger-like projections called villi, and the whole purpose of that is to increase the surface area so that your small intestine can absorb the nutrients better. And just like your capillaries, which you learned about in your circulatory system, the villi are one cell thick. And within the villi, there's actually also microvilli. So small intestine, the functions are chemical digestion and absorption. And the structure is, there's 3 different structures of your small intestine. First one is the duodenum, and this is where most of the digestion takes place. And then your next 2 are the jejunum and the ileum, and this is where the absorption takes place. Now, the duodenum, which is the first section of the small intestine, this is where acid from the acidic chyme from the stomach, that's where it's introduced into the small intestine through the sphincter that's over down here, and then it goes through here into the small intestine, and it mixes the digestive juices from the pancreas, the liver, and the gallbladder. So your 3 accessory organs. This slide, I think, is just out of place. Now let's talk a little bit about the absorption in the small intestine. So most of it is it's thought to directly go through the walls of the small intestine and into your bloodstream. And also almost 90% of our daily fluid intake is absorbed in the small intestine. And we've already been over villi. And microvilli. And like I said, the whole point is to increase surface area for those things. That's the whole purpose. And that's kind of what they look like in your small intestine. So you can see the villi on here. You can't really see the microvilli because they're super small. You can see that it's kind of jagged on these villi, and those are the microvilli. Finally, let's talk about the large intestine. One other name for the large intestine is the colon, and the function is to reabsorb water. This is the main function of the large intestine. So when your large intestine has problems and it's not reabsorbing enough water, then you end up having diarrhea because more of the water is just leaving your body with the feces. But when there's too much water absorbed, there's not enough water in your feces, so you're going to have constipation. So when it was passing through your small intestines, most of the material is going to be liquid, so it's still in that chyme state. But once it's at your large intestine, a lot of the water has already been reabsorbed, so it's now solid. And usually the reason why it's solid is because of all of the fiber that's left there, because your body can't digest a lot of the plant fiber that you eat. One other important thing is that you also have vitamins that are reabsorbed in the large intestine. So vitamin K and B specifically, and you'll see in a second why that is. And finally, through the rectum, that's where the waste is going to be leaving your body. So in your large intestine, you have a whole community of helpful bacteria, and the one that you need to know is E. coli. And the E. coli actually produces vitamins, specifically vitamin K and vitamin B. And the E. coli also generates gases as a byproduct of the bacterial metabolism. Finally, your appendix. Or not finally, I think there might be a few more slides, but the appendix, the only thing you need to know is that it is a vestigial organ. Do you guys know what's a vestigial organ? What does that mean? Yeah, so a vestigial organ, what that is it's something that used to serve a purpose in our past, but now it's just there and not serving a purpose at all. So the appendix doesn't do anything for us, but long time ago, it used to serve some sort of purpose. I think It was there to help digest bark or something like that, something that the rest of your digestive system couldn't do. But now we don't use it anymore. I mean, other examples of vestigial organs are your tailbone and your pinky toe. Those are the vestigial organs in your body. And finally, your rectum is your last section of your colon, and it eliminates feces, specifically undigested material. And that's mainly cellulose from plants, which is fiber. Another word for that is roughage. And there's also masses of bacteria that's going to be eliminated as well. All right, guys, that's everything. Do you guys have any questions about the digestive system? That was really quick. Basically 40 minutes, but it kind of works out because you have an orgo test tomorrow. And tomorrow's class won't be this quick because we're going over two systems that are there's a lot more material on them, and they're also going to be covered a lot more on the MCAT. So, I mean, my only tips for the digestive system is follow. I'm actually going to. I can send this to you. When you're studying the digestive system, the two ways you should study is what macronutrients are being digested where and by what enzyme. So the carbohydrates, fats, and proteins kind of, when you're going through the digestive tract, kind of make a little diagram or a chart or something like where they're being digested and what they're being digested by. And also think about mechanical and chemical digestion and where that's happening and how it's happening in each of the different parts of the digestive system. Okay, so I'm just waiting for you to type, and then I'm just going to close out. And yes, in terms of the digestive system, it's mostly about the different organs in the digestive system and what's happening in each one, not the specific biochemical process or anything. Yeah, that's that. I actually don't have the answer sheet. I think Dr. Sutton might have it though. So for genetics and micro, that stuff. Okay. So yeah. If you, I think one thing I haven't done with you guys, I haven't added you guys to the Google Drive. So I have a Google Drive with a ton of different documents. And right after I email the PowerPoint to you guys, in fact, the PowerPoint is going to be on the Google Drive, so I don't even need to email it to you. I'll send you an invite to that Google Drive, and it has the the actual notes of those blanks that I was in the outlines that I was using before. And there's gonna be one version of that file called the student copy, and that's the one with the blanks. And there's another version of it called teacher copy, and the blanks are all filled in with the words. So you can access those documents and look through those as well. And also, I think so. In my this is the online class. I'm also teaching a class in a classroom here. And one of the students, he uploaded pretty much any material you would need. So he uploaded all of the files for the exam crackers. He uploaded a lot of the gold standard videos, the audio osmosis audio stuff, and a bunch of practice questions and practice tests. So I'll invite you guys to that in the next 5-10 minutes. Cool, guys. I will see you next time. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.